Hello, ok, andiamo avanti con la classe quarta. After Cromwell died, there was the restoration of the monarchy, and so in 1660, Charles II came back to the throne. There was the restoration of the monarchy, and what was important, there were two very important facts during his reign, which were one was the Plague, Great Plague. So in 1665, when there was there were many people dying. Was death of a lot of people because there was such a plague and there were no medicines and no ways to cure people. And the other one was the Great Fire of London. Again, another fire of London in 1666, when even the globe was destroyed. Then they are the main elements, the main facts to remember, to keep in mind during his reign. The monarchy was restored, and that meant that at first the king was not very happy because he had been sent away after Cromwell. Do you remember Cromwell? After Cromwell went, kept the throne and sent him away. And however, he was not violent, and he did not put any special laws because he wanted to keep a kind of serenity and not to recreate a revolutionary moment in England, in Britain. This is a period when which is called by many the Age of Reason. The Age of Reason, because there were many philosophers thinking, they were publishing, there were a lot of pamphlets, journals. People liked to buy journals and to discuss, even in pubs or in coffee houses. Obviously, they were upper classes people. Always let's keep it in mind, because lower classes didn't have either time nor culture enough to do it. But it was a golden age, moment of moderation, of the quite kind of calmness, and even for women, women started to read a lot, actually, because they in middle class women had were a wealthy class. They belonged to a wealthy class, and they started to keep themselves very interested into literature, into politics, into especially literature, and into science, actually. And they read a lot. Many of them even started to write, and we have the best writers of the century who are actually women at this time. And For instance, Bronte sister, or Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and all the other novels, who were pointing, especially for Jane Austen, they pointed at marriage. Marriage was the predominant element, and obviously, people, the readers, were women, were especially women. There were long narrative novels dealing with a lot of feelings and different environments, both city and countryside. But what was important was the aim, the final aim, which was marriage. What else can I tell you? That there was a new view of the word, for instance, of nature. Nature was in fact considered in a benign way, not any longer as something bad. And it was a complex system, but it was connected with the emotions of people. So the author could project his or her feelings into the nature, or take feelings from the nature. It depended on how he felt, how she felt, and how the nature was around. But there was a lot of connection between nature and authors. This is the moment when there is circulation of a lot of ideas, just because of travels, coffee houses, novels, and people going about very freely. And prose and narrative rise. And the first important novels we have are the ones which then will be the prototypes of all of the novels. So the first one, the best known one, is Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, and then other novels. The narrative technique is not always the same. In Robinson Crusoe, we have a kind of narrative technique. Then in the other writers, we have other different narrative techniques, and there will be an evolution, always completely evolving, until we have in the 20th century we have the novel of a complete different scheme, which is the one by Virginia Woolf. Then the first three, do you have time to do it here? Yes, the first three one. I they want to give very clear messages, and the messages are of messages connected to moralism, to Puritan, or to ethic, however, to the middle class. For instance, it is like that in Defoe. It's not like that in other in other authors. It's not like that in Tom Jones. But the first ones are important for that because they are they want to give a clear prose, and they want to give a clear message of scheme. Here we are. So we have realistic novel. You find a scheme. Utopian novel, epistolary novel, and the picaresque novel. So it's not like the picaresque novel. What's the picaresque novel? It's the funniest one, I might say. And it is represented by Tom Jones, by Fielding, and the adventures by Fielding. Then we have the anti-novel. The picaresque novel is the funniest, we said, because there is main character living a lot of strange adventures and going around and behaving and misbehaving, creating a mess all around the world, and then going back. And this is in Tom Jones. It's in episodes. It was published little by little. And this young hero then had a lot of misfortunes, so everything adds and adds to his life. That's the kind of novel by Fielding, very different from the realistic novel of Robinson. The first one, we need to remember, the one by Robinson, by Daniel Defoe. So Robinson Crusoe is very important because it was the leading novel. All of them, let's remember, all of them were published little by little in the third page or the front page or in the inner side of papers, of the newspapers. So the authors could go on adding chapters because they could have more time or more space to change the stories until getting to an ending. And that's why some are very really massive, really great, really big. Apart from Robinson Crusoe, who is focused on a topic and wants to give a message, which is a message of morality, and it describes space, time, and it is, and the environment is that of new places which were found at the time. So of a man of going out, adventurous man on his ship and getting lost on an island for years and years until he manages to survive, until he manages to go back home. The last one, the most modern one we have, is the anti-novel. by Stern. The anti-nova means that it has not the same elements as a nova. It doesn't show an order in the mind. Tristram Shandy is a thinker, is a free thinker. He starts thinking and writing and changing even the way he writes, and we follow in the pages, we follow such thoughts and the many strange convolution of his pen, because he's man of art. That's why. And his thinking is just excavating his soul and trying to give a sense to his life. So we might say that is a prodrome to the new and modern novel.